Lesson 3, Conversation 2, Grammar Points G3.3 and G.34. Okay, the object marker. You've been hearing about different markers or particles, as they're called, and we have covered the subject marker, which shows up either as E or Ga, depending on what kind of sound comes before. And then we also briefly touched on the topic marker, which is un or nun. I know those two particles can be very confusing. We'll get into that a little more later, but for now, let me introduce to you yet another marker. This one is called the object marker. Okay, as I have mentioned before, Korean is quite a bit different from English in the sense that the verb comes last. Another way that the Korean language is different from English is that the word order, with the exception of the verb that comes last, or the adjective, a lot of words that come before the verb or the adjective are kind of flexible in terms of their placement. So when you have such a flexible syntax, how do you know who did what, right? Who is the doer of the action and who is the receiver of the action? In English, you indicate it because the first noun, like Tom kicked the cat. I'm sorry about the violent image. Okay, Tom tickled the cat. Do cats get ticklish? I don't know. Tom tickled the cat. Okay, Tom was the one who did the tickling because Tom comes before the verb. That's the first word. And then the receiver of the action comes after the verb. Tom tickled the cat. And that subject versus doer versus the object, the receiver of the action, the relationship changes if you switch the locations. So if you say the cat tickled Tom, I don't know, I guess in Disney movies that's possible. If you say the cat tickled Tom, you have to admit that, how strange and fantastical it sounds, that the cat was the one that tickled Tom. So what determines which noun is going to be the subject and which noun is going to be the object? The location of the noun phrases, right? Don't you agree? But now think about a language where the placement of these words are rather flexible. How do you know who's the doer and who's the receiver? In flexible languages like Korean, we indicate these relationships through little particles, and the whole thing in a big scheme of things called inflections. Inflections are very important because the inflections establish the relationships. So if you have ever studied Latin, I don't know if any of you have done that. You will know the inflections can just drive you absolutely nuts. I guess Korean grammar is worse or easier, depending on which language background you're coming from. But yeah. So all I wanted to say is this, that these markers are there for a reason. They're not invented to torture you. They're invented to make the meaning clear. So the marker that I'm going to introduce to you today is 을 or 를. I guess I have to say 를 because if you look at over here, if the 르 sound is at the top position of a syllable, then it's pronounced closer to an R. If it's at the bottom, it's L, closer to an L. But anyway, as you might have guessed, if the consonant comes before, it's 을 because it's a place taker, it's vowel. If the vowel comes, and then you follow with a consonant. I mean, Koreans really like that, don't we? Anyway, so let's just ignore this column because it's all subjects. And then object, 아침을 먹어요. That's the verb. It means Paul eats or is eating breakfast. And we know it's not the breakfast that's eating Paul because there's an object marker. Get it? 마이클이 시험을 봐요. Michael, the doer of the action because of the marker, takes, bio technically means to see, but in this context it means takes or is taking an exam. Now you know that it's not the exam that's taking Michael or take whatever. It wouldn't make any sense. 리사가 커피를 마셔요. So Lisa is drinking coffee, not the other way around. 유미가 친구를 만나요. Yumi is meeting with her friends, or Yumi is meeting her friends or friend, depending on the context. Context is everything in Korean. 친구가 주스를 마셔요. My friend or somebody's friend is drinking juice. So 을을, these are two variations. They're called allomorphs, if you want to know the linguistic term. Allomorphs of the same object marker. Okay, the good news is, because these particles and markers are so confusing, it should come as good news that Koreans drop these markers all the time. So if you don't know what to use, don't lose any sleep over it. Simply skip them. And because of the context, for the most part, you will be understood. So for example, 마이클은 여자친구가 없어요. When it comes to Michael, he doesn't have a girlfriend. You could say 마이클 여자친구가 없어요. No particles whatsoever. 마이클 여자친구 없어요. It can actually, context is everything. It can be interpreted at least two ways. 마이클 여자친구 없어요. That could mean Michael doesn't have a girlfriend. It could also mean Michael's girlfriend is not here. So, there's a price to pay for dropping the particles. There is a chance that you might be misunderstood. You just need to hope that your listener understands the context. But you can make the meaning a little clearer by saying Michael, 여자친구 없어요. So you're saying not Michael's girlfriend, but Michael. When it comes to Michael, 여자친구 없어요. When it comes to Michael, he doesn't have a girlfriend. And if you ask a question, chances are it means Michael, 여자친구 없어요. That means Michael, I'm talking to you. Do you not have a girlfriend? Context. I don't know. You want to go with the particles? Okay, how about 소피아는 일본 사람이 아니에요. When it comes to Sophia, that's the topic marker. She is not a Japanese person. She's not Japanese. Sophia is not Japanese. You could say Sophia 일본 사람이 아니에요. When it comes to Sophia, she's not Japanese. In a question form, you could say 소피아 씨 일본 사람이에요, or 일본 사람 아니에요. So 이에요 would mean Sophia, I'm talking to you. Are you Japanese? If you want to say aren't you Japanese, you'd say 소피아 씨 일본 사람 아니에요. I suppose technically you could be asking somebody else about Sophia with this sentence. 소피아 씨 일본 사람이에요. I'm talking to you, Michael. But when it comes to Sophia, is she Japanese? I don't know. Do you know? See context. How about 리사는 친구들을 만나요? Lisa meets her friends. 리사 씨 친구 만나요. When it comes to Lisa, she's meeting her friends. 리사 씨 친구 만나요? Lisa, I'm talking to you. Are you meeting your friends? Or you're talking with Michael and say, is Lisa meeting her friends? Yep, that could mean that. 리사 씨 친구 만나. I guess this without the comma would be more of a third person situation. You're asking somebody else. Or it could even also mean, are you meeting Lisa's friend? Oh my, okay. Forget it. I put an asterisk here and then I put the word 눈치. 눈치 means, 눈 means eye. Chi means, chi is impossible to translate. Chi is, I guess a read might be a good word. So chi, you read with your eyes. That means you're trying to figure out the context just by looking. Without overtly asking, just looking, you're figuring it out. And in a culture where the hierarchies mean a lot and the age difference, power difference, all these things are translated into what linguistic forms you have to use, 눈치 is very important because nobody powerful is going to come out and say, see, I'm more powerful, so you better use this form. You're supposed to figure it out. And then if you don't figure it out, and then they will punish you, but they're not going to tell you what the rules are before you actually, it's almost like they're, I know it sounds terrible, but it's almost like they're waiting for you to fall into a trap, and then they pounce on you. Okay, Koreans